Hello there everybody. Okay, we just finished our demo on creating the bus, and now I want to show you guys a few more of the pen tools and perhaps the reshape tool as well. Those are both pretty helpful tools for a lot of students to use. Okay, so the first thing I do want to show you guys is kind of something basic. You may have seen this in another demo by now, but I do want to show you guys the two different types of points that we're working with here. Okay, these are corner points. And if you zoom in on your points, come here. If you zoom in on a corner point and you select that corner point using your direct selection tool, it is simply a point that connects two straight lines to one another. Okay, all vector-based objects, which are objects created in a program such as Illustrator, use points and lines to connect them. Okay, these are just anchor points that selected will go between two straight lines and will define the edges of an object. Okay, the other type of point that you guys probably are familiar with is called a smooth point. And a smooth point has handles, and these handles will allow you to create a smooth curve. Now if you create an ellipse such as this one, these are all absolutely symmetrical curves. Okay, but you can also create one using the pen tool, and that can have irregular curves. Okay, now a lot of people get really frustrated trying to learn the pen tool, and it is probably the hardest tool that you're going to learn to master, but it's also one of the most important, so I really do urge you guys to figure out how to use this effectively. Okay, so there is the regular pen tool that I'm going to show you how to draw with in just a moment, and you guys have been shown how to draw with this in some of the other demos. There's also the Add Anchor Point tool, Delete Anchor Point tool, and Convert Anchor Point tool. Okay, I'm going to show you these really quick because these are additional editing options for you that are really quite useful. Now you already know that if you use your direct selection tool and you select any point, you can change that point. Okay, now I am simply grabbing the handle here, or I can also use my up down arrow keys to change the position of my point. If I use the handles, I can change what that curve looks like. Okay? I can also use my Delete Anchor Point tool, and I can delete any point that I wish on my object. Okay? And it will change what the object looks like. Now when you use Delete Anchor Point tool as opposed to delete, if you use Delete Anchor Point, these two points are still connected, and therefore this is still a solid object. If you simply select a point and then delete it, you will leave this as an open shape. So if you have an edge on this, for instance, here, let me undo this, add a stroke, change the color so you guys can see this a little better. Okay. I'm going to make it pretty thick so you guys can see this quite easily. Okay, so again, if you select a point and you use the Delete Anchor Point tool, you'll see that this is still a solid object, and the stroke that I have assigned to this object goes all the way around. I'm going to undo that, and this time I'm simply going to select a point and I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. And you'll see a big difference. This is now an open shape. Open shapes are infinitely harder to work with, and you probably don't want to work with it. Okay, there's occasions when you might need an open shape, but not very often. So do yourself a favor, don't use Delete Anchor Point tool unless you want that open shape. Instead, delete your anchor point. Okay? Delete it using this tool. Makes it a little bit easier for you guys. Okay, you guys can also add anchor points to any object using the Add Anchor Point tool. You guys saw me do this once on the bus. Okay. And once you add your points, then you can also edit your points. Find your object. There it is. So again, you can use your arrow key. And this is just another way of building shapes. Okay, Sometimes you need a little bit more control than what you can get with the pen tool, especially when you're first learning the pen tool. And this is just another way of doing it. All right. So this is add and subtract or delete anchor points. There's also convert anchor points. And convert anchor points is also quite useful. It looks like a little V. Okay. It's on your pen tool. And remember, if you don't see all of this, they're underneath here. Oh, I'm sorry. Not that one. Ignore what I just said. They are underneath your pen tool. And I'm pulling a blank. There it is. Sorry. I'm so used to seeing the pen tool on top there. Okay, but it's underneath here. Any of these tools that you see that have this little black triangle has a tear off menu. Okay, and you can tear that off and you can move it around. This is one I leave open pretty much all the time, so I never really look over here for it. I know that it's always open for me right here. Okay, so anyway, let's go back to Convert Anchor Point tool. So you do that. Whoops. Yes, yes, yes. It's often helpful just to select the object so you can see it. Now you go find your point, and you can click and drag it out to make it a smooth point. Or if you already have a point and you simply want to make it a corner point, you just click on it. This is now a corner point. Okay. And this one. Oops. Okay. So this is a very helpful little tool. You either click on it to make it a corner point, or you click and drag it to make it a smooth point. Okay, corner points, smooth points. Smooth points create your curves, corner points create your points. Okay, and while I'm here, and while I have objects with outlines on them, I want to show you something else really quick. I don't know if you guys have been shown this or not, but it's kind of a helpful tool. You see that I have this thick orange stroke on my object. You can change the position of the stroke, whether it be on the inside, the outside, or kind of halfway in between of the stroke that you draw. So you can see that it changes the shape of the object. Okay, and another helpful thing that I want to show you guys, I'm going to put that back on the aligned stroke to the center. There's another quick little trick here that I tend to use quite often. If you have an object with a stroke on it, and this also works on patterns, and it works on a number of different things. But if you go up to a object and expand, you can get these options to expand the fill and the stroke. And when you do that, and you ungroup your object, remember grouping and ungrouping is up here, or learn your keyboard equivalents, check out what this does. Now I have one object that is simply the orange outline and another object that is the blue center. Okay, I just separated the outline or the stroke from my object. Now I can add another stroke to this if I wish to. Change the color. Okay, I can also add a stroke to this one because these are now separate objects. Alright, it's just a quick little tool. I use it quite a bit when I'm doing logo work for different purposes. Again, there are tons of things within Illustrator that you are not going to know how to do yet, and that is okay. I've been using Illustrator for like 9 years now, and there are still tools within Illustrator that I don't really use that often. They just don't come useful to me that often, and that is okay. You guys don't need to worry about learning every single solitary thing in here in its entirety during this term. Okay, you're not likely to do that. Don't feel like you have to do that. It's not necessary. Okay, I have given you guys lots of demos. There were lots of demos placed in the module resources, and also under assignment guidelines and rubrics you'll find some stuff. I gave you guys some other resources like Adobe TV. There are tons of resources out there for you guys to learn this stuff. I gave you the channel that I have on YouTube. There are at least 28 demos on there by now. This one will probably make 29. So please make use of all these resources at your disposal. There are tons of options out there for you guys. Alright, so I'm going to show you a couple other things here. Actually, before I show you that one, let me just show you building. I think you guys have already been shown this quite a bit. And even if you don't get it yet, it's just a matter of practicing. And that's building objects with your pen tool. You guys have learned this with the pen tool, with the bus, sorry. And you've learned this with several other parts of the shapes and methods tutorial. And also with the robot tutorial. So there's lots of different ways that you've been taught to do this. I'm just going to show you one more quick thing on how to do this. And it's using your pen tool and creating objects. Okay, so you notice I'm going to start by using my click and pull, which will create a smooth object. Now when I'm creating this object, I'm trying to think ahead as to what my next curve will look like. I already have a picture of this object in my head. Okay, so I'm just going to have to work with what I got, and I'm trying to create this object as I go. Okay, and there are different ways of working with the pen tool. Everyone has their own kind of level of expertise. People will use it in different ways. Oops, I do not like that one. I can undo. And it really is a matter of getting used to working with the tool. And, you know, and there's days I can do whatever I want with this tool and it seems to come very easily. And there's other days that I just struggle with it and it drives me crazy. That's kind of the luck of the draw. And as you work with it more and more and more, you will get better at it. I promise you. Okay, so once you have that, you can go in and then you can edit your points. Okay, and remember the difference between editing an object with your selection tool, your regular selection tool, or editing your points with your direct selection tool. And as you click on these anchors, if it is hollow, it is not selected. If it is solid, it is selected. And if you want to select more than one point, you hold down your shift key. All right. You've got to learn how to master the pen tool. It's a tough one. People hate it or love it, but once they learn to use it, they generally love it. But at first, you might learn to hate it for a short time. Don't worry about it. You're going to get it. Okay, I haven't had that many students not do well with this class in the long run, and I've probably taught this class between on campus and online a good 30 times by now, easily. Okay, so I've had very, very few students not manage to figure things out by the end of the class. Sometimes it does take a little longer, but not always. It's just a matter of getting used to this stuff. Okay, so anyway, I'm not going to sit here and edit forever for you guys. But anyway, you get the idea. You just really need to practice with this tool. Give yourself some challenges, like writing your name in these kind of curvy bubble letters. And if you can master your name, for instance, then you will start having better control over this pen tool. Okay, so you click and you drag on your points to create these smooth points.